I'm currently at 14,000 miles and the service manual calls for an inspection of the spark plugs. But I thought we might as well, if we're going in there, to replace them, because once you take out the spark plug, you actually need to replace the crush washer that comes with it. So this is a good opportunity to go in there, look at everything, learn, and put new ones in. So the new ones from the dealership cost about $35 each. I know they're a little bit pricey. Another thing you guys need to get is a thin wall spark plug socket like this one. On the Rebel 11, each cylinder has two spark plugs. One is over here, which is easy access, and the second one, which is up here. There's no way to get to it unless you remove the tank as well as the airbox completely. So let's get started. The first thing we need to do is remove the side covers. This is a 5mm. To free up the airbox, we actually need to remove the ignition coil. And just move it out of the way. That way, when you're lifting the airbox out, this does not bind. The other thing we have to do is release this clip that's attached to the harness, because this clip is attached to the housing. You can use a flathead screwdriver to get in there. To release it. While we're here, we're going to pull the crankcase breather tube, because it is actually attached to the airbox and it's going to come out once we pull the airbox out. We need to release these two on the right side. And we also need to release the ignition coil on the right side. Just like on the left side, we also need to release this clip over here, because it is attached to the airbox. We also have to remove the air hose, which is over here. When you're using pliers, cover them with tape so that you don't scratch up your surfaces or damage the hose. Pinch the clip. And gently use something plastic so you guys don't damage anything over here. This is plastic, this is rubber, okay? There we go. We need to do the same thing with this air hose as well. It might be easier to work with this once we remove the tank. To remove the tank, First, we have to remove this plastic logo. Use something plastic to go underneath it, you see right there, so that you don't scratch up anything. You might be able to get it with your nail. There we go. That's where the bolt is. To get to the bolt in here, you can use an Allen key, or you can use a ball head like this one. Just be careful that you don't scratch up your tank. Remove the remaining two bolts. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to move the tank out of the way. We don't have to disconnect any of the hoses or cables underneath. Lift up the rear and pull back. And turn the tank slowly, and make sure you have something to rest the tank on. And on this side, on the right side of the bike, under the tank, make sure you protect your frame, because you're going to scratch it up if you don't. You want to move it out of the way enough to be able to get access to the airbox. And this is a good position right here. First thing we're going to do is disconnect this blue connector over here. So you press down on the clip and then pull away, just like that. This will give you access to a screw that's hidden behind it. You might be able to remove the airbox without removing the cover, but I prefer to remove the cover because that's going to give me an opportunity to examine on the inside and make it a little bit easier to work with. The front three screws might give you a little bit of a headache to get to them, so having a magnetic tip will be very helpful. Let's remove the airbox cover. You might see some oil residue in the airbox. Don't be concerned about it. That's normal, because the crankcase breather tube is right there. So oil is going to come out this way, and the drain for the breather tube is right down here. The next thing we're going to do is remove these two bolts over here, and that's what's holding the airbox to the frame. Be mindful, when you remove these bolts, there are sleeves inside over here that might fall. Be careful, because it's going to be a pain to be able to retrieve them. Right there, do you see the sleeve? If this little guy falls in there, it's going to be a nightmare trying to find it. The next thing we'll do is we'll release these clamps over here that go over the throttle body. The best way to get to them is to come in this way. Do the same thing on the other side. And now we can pull the airbox up, but be mindful of the air hose that's still attached on this side. And the air hose has already released. Now that we are in this position, what we need to do is we need to pull it to the rear a little bit, because there's an arm that goes inside of a rubber grommet in the front over here, underneath, and I'll show you that in a sec. Just be mindful of the cables, free everything up. Make sure nothing is binding and you're not going to break anything as you're pulling out, on both sides of course. And don't forget the breather tube to free it up. You see, that's what's binding right now, the breather tube. Okay. There we go. This is that arm that I was telling you about, and it goes right in there in that rubber grommet. So just remember that. And the breather tube, just free it. And there you go. What we want to do immediately is we want to cover the throttle body. You don't want anything, any debris going in there, because that's going to go straight into the engine. Next, we're going to remove the coil over here for the spark plug. And that's why we had to remove the airbox, because in order for us to get to these two spark plugs, we have to remove it, and you'll see in a second. So what you want to do is you want to hold it over here and pull. There you go. What we need to get is a thin wall spark plug socket like this one. And then in order for you to reach it, you need an extension of some sort. And there we go. Looks like it's running lean. This is what the new one looks like in the box. All right, let's put the new spark plug in place. We'll keep it there and then we'll torque it down a little bit later. Let's remove the other one. And that's what the second one looks like. Again, not bad, just running a little bit lean. Let's put the new one in place. Now it's time to torque them down, and we're going to torque them down to 16 foot-pounds. There we go. 16 foot-pounds. There we go. 16. Put back the coils. There we go. Make sure you hear that click, and then make sure that the rubber seal goes around over here. Put the second one in. Listen for the click. There we go. Let's remove the second set. These are of course much easier. And before you actually remove it, make sure you clean well all around it. And the reason why we want to do that is if there's any debris in there, once you remove it, you don't want anything falling into the engine. Okay, let's install the new one. Listen for the click. There we go. I felt it. You didn't really hear it that well, but I did feel it. There we go, 16. There we go. Let's reinstall the airbox. Once you put the airbox in, you need to pay attention to a couple of things. One, you want the breather tube to be free so that it doesn't bind and prevent the airbox from sitting in its place. The next thing is the ignition coil right here. See, we're going to reinstall it right there. So you want to make sure that it's not binding anywhere and it's free. Another thing that's important to note, what you want to pay attention to is that the airbox has a plastic piece over here that goes into a rubber grommet, and you need to make sure that it actually goes inside. Now that everything is in place where we want it, we want to slide this over the throttle body. And now that they're sitting flush, we need to tighten the screws. The air intake clamp is right here, and the screw is right there. Let's secure the ignition coil. This is an 8mm. And you see this side, you have a hole right there to align with this one. And the rear goes in like this. The next thing we'll do is secure the harness over here with this clip. Before securing the airbox, we need to reinstall the air hose. Use pliers like this, but make sure you cover them so that you don't scratch up or damage the rubber. Getting the air supply hoses back on is a little bit tricky, so be patient. Next, we're going to install the ignition coil on the right side. Pay attention to the routing of the cables. And let's install the plastic covers. Next, we'll install the side cover over here. These go right there. And secure the ignition coils. Next, we'll install the bolts that secure the airbox, and don't forget about the sleeve. We can put back the airbox cover now. And the first screw is the one up here. Attach the blue connector. And install the remaining screws. Reinstall the tank, gently twist it, and remove the rag. We'll lift it from the rear and slide it in the front. Install the front bolt. And the rear two bolts. Let's start the bike for the first time. That sounded awesome to me. I hope you guys found this helpful. Have a great day.